Well, hello everybody. Once again, welcome to yet another edition of the Inworld Review, where, typical to form, I haven't even got the date up in front of me, but I've just double checked. It is the 23rd of May. Yes, we're almost into that summer thing. And of course, unbeknownst to me, or unremembered by me until the very last minute, of course, is the fact that it's already one of the holiday days. It's a spring bank holiday in the weekend, sorry, in the UK here over the weekend. Just a notional holiday before the long, hard summer. It continues till the end of August when we get another one. But over in the States, of course, it is Memorial Day, or I believe, and is therefore a holiday too. So, although there is plenty on the agenda today, it is just me, Tara, and Maria here to entertain you. So I'm going to say hi to Tara, although I gather Tara is actually muted because, as she will probably tell you when we do get her on air, she has a carnival going on in her backyard. And it's rather noisy, so she's going to let me know when it's safe to talk, so to speak. So welcome, Tara, in your vocal absence. And welcome also, of course, to Maria Koroloff. Welcome, Maria.
Oh, hi, Mel. Great to be here.
Indeed. Well, for those of you who watched the show last week, we were without Tara because she was on retreat, and we were also without Maria because she was en route, in fact, on a plane to Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Expo of 2015. And we'll be hearing a lot more about that from her very, very shortly. In fact, even more shortly than usual, because I'll be going to Maria first, unless Tara gives me the all clear. Interesting stuff here this week, of course. Just to go through my own headlines. If you want the various links from the week, do go to my Twitter stream, which you'll find at twitter.com/malburns, or one word. And there were actually quite a few interesting videos posted this week. Initially, the SVVR 2015 had 2 days worth of video proceedings, but they were sort of about 4 or 5 hours long. But fortunately, somebody out there decided it would be a good idea to cut them up, and they've been posted under somebody else's name. There was quite a lot of interest there. I have not had time to watch half of this, and indeed even a couple of the ones I've actually downloaded ready to watch on blue screen. But the highlights were Ebby Linden, of course, talking as much as he could really about the new Second Life platform, SL2 with its funny new name. And Philip Rosedale, of course, back to talk about what is the metaverse and high fidelity. By sheer coincidence, posted this week, Philip gave another talk with exactly the same title at the Eurogaming conference. And possibly the video of that talk is possibly more informative than the one he gave at tongue twister this, SVVR. Of course, Philip's been a regular there anyway, so a lot of people who spoke at that conference would have had background on Philip anyway. So some pretty good, interesting stuff there, and I'm sure Maria will tell us more about them. Tara has also had a good watch and kept up on the talk Eddie gave and the Second Life stuff. So depending on her ability to come on voice, she probably have quite a bit to contribute on that front. Anyway, just running through my Twitter feeds for highlights. Most of them, as usual, come from Out of Good Business, where I guess Maria was actually live blogging. So, well, not live blogging, but posting at the time, you know. So I'll leave all that to her. Ebby saying that SL users cashed out $60 million last year. Mm-hmm. Is that cashed out?
That's cashed out. He said cashed out.
Yeah. So he's just showing off that they pay people. Fair enough. Hands-on with Alt Space VR's launch updates, enhances social features, and adds all-important selfie cam or something. I forget where I can't tell where that came from. It was a Scoop.it post.
It was a press release. I ran it. A bunch of other people ran it.
Right. Yeah, it probably appeared on yours or somewhere else. But, yeah, okay. Currentjournal.com had a couple of very interesting posts. One was about Riverlands on roleplay on the Great Canadian Grid here, where we're actually broadcasting from. He also had another post about housing crisis in Great Canada Grid, which I think you have to say with a pinch of salt. It was a kind of what I call a lifestyle post. You know, it's sort of he reports on things from a sort of immersive grid perspective, and so claiming that Great Canada Grid, unlike other grids, actually has a housing crisis. There's more people than places to put them, which it's not quite strictly true, but in the role-play sense of the housing communities and stuff, maybe it is. But he was making a big noise about the fact there's major refugee camps here. So many people are coming in, and Roddy actually put a post up earlier today where I think it might actually be a misprint because it had the user count was in excess of 10,000.
Yeah, that's...
I'm not quite sure. I mean, it is certainly growing, but I have a feeling it's more in the region of 3,000 or 4,000. So, but we'll see. Maybe it was from this spring. Maybe it wasn't. Eye tracking technology makes virtual reality hands-free. Well, we know about that. That's more toys, the ones that eye track you. Eddie's speech again. First, Project Samsar, that was the word I was trying to remember, the new project from Linden Lab. More endless SVVR. Things from the afterlife. Well, I can't run my headlines without mentioning the fact that we had our safari as normal at noon Pacific time on Wednesdays, as we do every week. But this was, I guess, safari number 52, or was it 53? But either way, it was the first anniversary safari, and we didn't actually do much safarying. We went to the events plaza on OpenSimGrid and had a jolly good party. Self-same person actually crashed. And I gather that when I got back here, I actually missed I missed the best bit. But never mind, that is life. And Things from the Afterlife, blogspot.com, that's PINGSFROMTHEMAFTERLIFE. Things from the Afterlife, all one word. There's Rember's blog, and it has it has two posts this week. One is a Safari report. The other is actually a resume of the first year of Safari, which is very good reading indeed, and very picturesque reading, I might add. More on Philip's endless things here on Philip's talk, of course. All the Second Life bloggers have something to say about it, and that's what they want to do. Using virtual reality to rebuild the past, reconstructing the Zum Nussbaum restaurant. Now, that doesn't sound very intriguing, but I did actually find that post to be very intriguing indeed. It was a recreation post. I think it was on OpenSim. I can't be sure. It was certainly well worth looking at. I got the impression it was far more than a restaurant. Put it that way. Anyway, so going back in time, I can't give you the details of exactly what this New Sport restaurant was anyway. And I think yes, I think that's about it. Some of the other videos that came out from Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Conference, I did put on my Malbone's Annex blog at blogspot.com. Not everything to do with every new piece of hardware, but those that seem to be to do with interfacing and metaverse content, shall we say. Anyway, that seems to be it for my little roundup of what I got in front of me. I have yet to open fact, I'll close this and or I'll go to the feed in a minute. And I'm going to pass on Tara until I hear otherwise. And
actually, I just did a little typing and said I'm in the clear at the moment.
Oh, wonderful! Well, that is good. That is. I don't know why. I don't think I'm hitting. I think I got my pings off. Okay, over to Tara. Over to Tara for the latest news from Carnival and elsewhere.
It's not a carnival. It's a parade. Well, anyway, greetings from the upper left-hand corner, where yes, in the U.S. of A. it is Memorial Day weekend, and in the little community that I live in, it's the kickoff for the summer busy season, and one of the events on Memorial Day weekend is this little community parade, and it features every fire vehicle in our local fire department leading the parade off and running their sirens. It gets rather noisy. And fortunately, they're now past my house and on around the corner and down to the other end, and I can't even hear them. So anyway, greetings, and it's good to be back after a week off and getting out of town and out to the beach and stuff like that. I am definitely looking forward to hearing Maria's comments and report on the VR or whatever conference in the Bay Area this week. I did watch or listen to Evie's presentation, it being an obvious high point relative to Second Life and upcoming it's SVVR. That's what it is. Zastra? Is it Zastra? No, it's not Zastra.
Sansar.
Sansar. I got to think Samsara. Yes.
Yes, it's from the Sanskrit. It means something or other.
Yeah. Lives, multiple lives, many things. Anyway, that 60 million cash out figure was interesting. It's actually, I think, the first time in a while that there's been a figure that's leaked out of the lab on how much money people are making. And what was also interesting was in his comments talking about Project Sansar, that by whatever name, that they are really they're focusing on, amongst other things, scalability and getting around the problem of maxing out at 100 or 200 people on a sim or a combination of sims attending events. And also his comment that that their expectation is that current cash out figure coming from Second Life would be paltry compared to what they project over the long term. They anticipate Project Sansar being capable of. So the focus is really on user content as far as what they're doing. That they clearly got that right in the middle of the bullseye. And there was an interesting takeaway that got apparently pretty widely misunderstood. In the course of Evie's comments, he made a comment about some end user content being less than admirable, and the immediate takeaway was the way he phrased it. Some people assumed it meant they were going to start filtering user content for adequacy, etc. Well, that wasn't. There was a rather quick comeback from the lab clarifying that. That was not the intent at all. That what they were particularly looking at were ways that the tools could become idiot-proof, if you will, and the build tools. And I think that the real issue that we run into all the time in Second Life is when people do scripting that brings the servers to their knees, or really impacts heavily on the performance of everything else in a sim. Because people don't understand what they're doing. So they're obviously very focused on some of those issues to build in to the new platform ways to prevent that from happening, and not to impinge on people's creativity or being able to build stuff or create stuff, but rather to see to it that what people do doesn't affect what other people are doing. and boy, you know, when you think about Second Life and all the things that people build, and especially if you take something like mainland Sims, which are just completely all over the map as far as people's skills and everything else, you know, I have long felt that you know, Second Life and the Second Life architecture really takes a beating because so many different people are fiddling with stuff that impacts on how the servers behave. So I found that particular piece real interesting, and also the fact that how quickly it was jumped all over as they're going to, you know, they're going to start censoring us, and that wasn't the intention at all. Let's see. An item that I am very interested. I don't know how much this came up in the VR SVVR event, Maria, but I want to hear what your thoughts are at this point about the HTC and Valve collaboration, which is at least being viewed by some as a direct the significant competitor for Oculus. And in particular, what caught my attention in an article I saw this week is that the Valve HTC collaboration, their headset, amongst other things that they've been working on, is they've come up with some handheld wands, basically, for interactions, for mimicking hand motions. And the other thing that their headsets do is they enable you to interact and wander around a room, so long as you're apparently within, you know, I think it's 5 meter long cable, which is quite a bit of rope to hang yourself on. But they're set up to basically give you a visual wall when you're getting close to one. And one of the other interesting tidbits that I saw on that is that they're also working on the ability to track things that are actually in motion. So for example, if you have a cat and the cat wanders through the room and you've got your headset on, the cat or something will wander through your visual screen to match up with that object so you don't trip over it or step on it or whatever, which is pretty intriguing. And apparently it's getting some very good, very, very positive reviews and comments from developers. So I'm very interested in hearing more about that, because I don't think we really touched on that unless it got talked about last week, which I kind of doubt. So I want to hear more about that. And let me see, I think I had one more item here. Just to speak of Second Life briefly, and a complete change of subject here. If you're looking for a hunt that's a little different from the ordinary, New Toulouse, which is a build that is based on Louisiana, New Orleans, and Cajun country both, has a little hunt called the Missing Marbles, a Cajun comedy hunt, which I've just run through. And each of your stops, you get a little tidbit of Cajun comedy in the note cards, and it's great fun. And there's one that's that's taken advantage of a send up of a couple of other in-world communities, as well as themselves. And our friend Crap Mariner got a mention in one of them too. So it's rather fun, and of course it's a fun build anyway. So I'll share a little bit of that more next week when we're in Second Life for the show. So on that note, I think that's it for the moment, and I'll hand it over to Mel to hear from Maria.
Okay, well, thanks very much, Tara. Yeah, is it actually the first next Saturday? I don't know why I thought it's 2 weeks before the first Saturday again, but never mind. We will sort that out. We'll be here or in SL. While we're talking about SL, I've just opened up my other Twitter feed, which is twitter.com/Malburns_writer, which is my Second Life avatar name, and destinations, events, and things like that. There are more videos I posted this week than I could possibly count. It's scrolling under the floor. But aside from that, HarperGameSport.com had a feature on the LEA 29 art exhibit, disturbing and thoughtful. And Inara Pei had an article of seeking respite in Second Life. She's at modemworld.wordpress.com, always good links from her. And noble people and beautiful places remembered in Second Life. That too is Inara. The other wonderful blog, of course, is our regular Second Life guest here, Honor Macmillan. You can find her as Honor Macmillan. That's HONOURMCMILLAN.wordpress.com. Honor is actually spelled the proper way, as opposed to the American way, where the U is missing. She had an article, well, she's had several articles up, but she had one about an excellent looking, I haven't been there, but it's certainly an excellent looking build called the Eternal Suspense. Exactly how Merry Christmas Second Life 2014 videos arrived on my feed, I'm not sure, because I didn't press the post button. But I would like to apologize to people who follow this Twitter stream. You get endless videos every day, and occasionally, for some reason, the Tumblr, where I host them all, so sometimes publishes an old one, well out of date. Second Life traveling, Varna Londe. Another interesting looking location. The report comes from Pixel Mythos at WordPress.com. That's PIXELMYTHOS. And yeah, I think this is just a picture I took actually. The vineyard is a place called Checkmate. That's at VIAGERA.blogspot.com. Molly Bloom's art gallery. Posted on Ziki Questy, ZIKIQUSTI.blogspot.com again. Plenty from the SL Inquirer. Come into the garden. A spotlight on the Sacred Gardens by one of their reporters, Mackenzie Abbott. Plenty more videos, of course, and I'm not going to scroll down any further. You do check out the Malvern Science feed if you want more. There was also a post at a new blogger on me, actually, Nala Christina, WordPress.com. That's NALAKRISTINA.wordpress.com. And it was about a visit to a place called Chakrin Forest. Now, Chakrin Forest, for those of you who haven't seen it in Second Life, it's absolutely stunningly, gorgeously perfect. But it's a while since I've actually seen a blog on it, and this one's by a blog I hadn't come across before, full of praise about it. Yes, I mentioned our Safari anniversaries anyway, and that doesn't really fit in Second Life, does it? It's probably the actually, the reason was Fusion Nightfire posted as a couple of videos, I think 3 in all, from the Safari birthday event on Wednesday. One video was an extract of Truly Telling, who you may remember we've had on our show here, performing, and good point. Yes, the other one was somebody else performing. Now, we all love the Tinies in Second Life, and at the moment, something that's on is the Raglan Shire Art Walk. Now, this isn't just a Tinies thing. This is an annual event where they create a sort of walk through various art installations and things. And at the moment, one of the bloggers at Million Happy Endings, that's Million Happy Endings, all one word, .wordpress.com. They're actually basically blogging some posts on the Raglan Shire Art Walk. Let's see, 2 days ago was part 3. It may well be that part 4 is out now, but lovely stuff out there. And yeah, plenty of music and shows and everything else happening in Second Life, of course. Happy Hunting, Sugarlicious Me, Angry and Honorary Show, you name it. There's a lot of shows out there, of mixed quality, should we say. And scrolling up, YouTube. Oh, that's the oh, it looks like that's some restaurant thing. May have been in Second Life actually. The post came from Joe Yardley at World. Now I remember now. Joe Yardley, JoyArdley.wordpress.com. She is the co-host with Dratsa Dupre on Dratsa's weekly radio show. And she, of course, runs Virtual Berlin in Second Life. And now I think about it, I think this restaurant build that the article is about is actually part of Virtual Berlin, which is no surprise. It's sort of took me. I liked it. And our pay has one on Roxeter, Roxeter, where the arts meet in Second Life. Million Happy Endings, I mentioned earlier. They've got a piece on the virtual boyhood home of Johnny Cash, the famous country singer, I guess is the category he would fall in. Amazing man. Anyway, his boyhood home has been recreated in Second Life. Do with that an open sim, I think. That's, you choose your places. You choose your places. And let's see. Oh, Whirly Placebo was the other performer at the Safari birthday party, and Fuchsia's posted some videos of that as well. SL Inquirer had an interview with Enzo Champagne. Yeah, love avatar names. He's actually the founder of Champagne Sparkling Couture. Fashion thing there, but it's always interesting. The Inquirer actually does do some kind of interesting interviews with the avatars behind these things. So not your average fashion blog, put it that way. There's a silent art auction, again in our pay reports on this, happening in Second Life. It's actually Sail for Life, Relay for Life. In other words, it's the Sail for Life people that are already boating and sailing and stuff. Have their own Relay for Life team, and they're doing a silent art auction, it's called, at the moment. And yeah, getting close to the top. 8 hours ago, that's getting close to the top, I've got to admit. Oh yes, more interesting fashion at Second Life Inquirer. I noted it really because of the title. A few good men outline their take on spring fashion trends. And Rhea Sandalwood reporting, they are pointing out that they don't get to cover enough male fashions, so they actually chose a whole load of male avatars to give a roundup of what they thought the latest men's fashions were. Yeah. If it happens in Second Life, maybe it happens in real life next year. Or never, who knows. And also on Relay for Life 2015, it's Woodstock. Yes, Woodstock, Second Lifestyle. And in our pay at modernworld.com, modernworld.wordpress.com has all the information you might need on that. Lots of other posts by Daniel Boydger, of course. A couple of people who, one person in particular, who, Second Life avatar who passed away during the week, and he has a little tribute to them. It happens all the while, of course, sadly, but some losses are more notable than others. And SU Scholars Offices, I have not a clue what that post was about. Oh yeah, Great Weekend Explore. Both the Second Life Destination Guide and the blog that came today from Kara secondlife.blogspot.com. That's Kara, and then Second Life in words, or one word, about a new build called the Kingdom of Galanthus, and described as a great weekend explore. So Lyndon had a bit of PR on that, and Kara's got an extended PR. And Breno had a post today as well about an artwork called Obedience. Now, this exists simultaneously in Second Life, not open sim, I'm afraid, but it's also opening at the Judisches Museum in Berlin. And it's a kind of mixed reality thing where the installation in Second Life joins together with the real world exhibition in Berlin. So it's always great to see these sort of things crossing over. Plus videos today, what a feature show on Audacious Spring 2015 fashion show, and there's 2 parts of that were posted this morning. So without further ado, I'm going to keep my, I'm going to open up my Google Plus posts, but while I'm doing that, it's time to hand over to Maria. I've just realized that on my backup camera, I've had the camera on Tara for the entirety of that land. However, true to form, I'm now handing over to Maria. Maria, the West Coast all week, or the early parts of the week, it has been exciting, I take it, hasn't it?
Yes. So do you want me to go through the Silicon Valley Virtual Reality Conference recap first, or get through the Hypergood business news first?
I think let's go to the Hypergood business news first, just to get that out of the way, and then since Tara's been watching Eddie's talk and things like that, we'll maybe go into discussion with the conference. Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned the Great Canadian Grid earlier in this show. They had 532 active users in the last month, and they've got 1,200 total registered users. So I think that was a typo that you said. I think it's just a funny story, the housing crisis. They're highlighting the fact that they're growing so fast. But yes, I did have the stats report come out this past, which actually not last week, but the previous week on May 15th. I was gone, of course, last Saturday. And the land area has crossed 44,000 square kilometers for the first time. We've passed 60,000 regions on the public OpenSim grids, and active users crossed the 32,000 mark. So the total land area of OpenSim's public grids is now bigger than the state of Rhode Island. OpenSim gained 1,700 regions, and all the region gains were on 100 new regions. And all the region gains grids actually lost a few regions. So the region movement has been definitely to the hypergrid, and the closed. Hello? Did oh okay, I guess we lost the call. Okay, I think I'm off Skype too. Okay. All right. So somebody's telling me to keep going. So we had a net gain of users and regions on the hypergrid, and a net loss on the closed commercial grids. So that's been an ongoing trend for the last few months, actually. And the reason, of course, is that the hypergrid, you have access to all the hypergrid users, all the hypergrid regions, a single avatar, and with closed commercial grids, a separate avatar on each closed commercial grid. The big gainers were,
sorry about this, though. Technical difficulties will happen, but that is what life is like.
And there's Mal, and there's Maria.
And this,
Just a quick on air credit for those of you. Yeah, I've been watching live stream. There's nothing untoward there except the fact that my avatar stood up for some reason. We also have James Lloyd on the call, by the way, who is James Out Loud, who is our filmer. So I'd just like to give James a shout out there. He's filming his tweets from now on. So thank you, James. And I'm looking at the live stream channel, and it seems that all is still fine there. We just lost Skype for a short while. So with that, I'll hand us back to Maria. I'm not entirely sure where we sort of lost. I know you were going through your stat reports. And
okay, so I'll quickly summarize the stat report. Hypergrid enabled grids were the big winners. They gained lots of users. They gained lots of regions. Closed commercial grids lost a few users, lost a few regions. The big gainer was Metropolis, followed by Kitely, DigiWorlds, and of course, you already mentioned the Great Canadian Grid. They nearly tripled their size. So the stats report is up on the website, and you can see it as well as the raw data for the report. If there's any errors, any mistakes, let me know. A lot of grids have non-standard formats for their statistics, and I have to pull those out by hand, and mistakes do get made. So if you are a grid owner, please have a standard stats page in English up somewhere on your site and email it to me so I can pull from that automatically, and that would reduce substantially the number of mistakes that I made. Okay, Inworld has posted a blog post about some of their community efforts that they're doing. They're reporting bugs and bug fixes. They donated some code. They made a $500 donation to help OS Grid, and they're helping the Moses Grid with a physics engine, bringing that to OpenSim. So I want to make sure that you guys know that the closed commercial grids do contribute. And in a follow-up post, the other founder, Beth Reichel, or Elenia Inworld, also talked about how they're marketing and how much money they're spending to attract not people from outside the virtual worlds into Inworlds, and that is a great thing that they're doing for OpenSim as a whole. And I want to make sure that they get the credit that they deserve for both their marketing efforts and their help with donations. A company called Lexinova has done a patent survey, and they found out that Sony is ahead in the virtual reality patent race, with the most and the highest value patents, with 366 different virtual reality patents, followed by Microsoft, followed by Samsung. And according to this company, virtual reality is accelerating, but it's still not as big as some areas that they cover. And there isn't too, and they don't think that there's too much stuff being patented.
It beggars belief to me that there can be that many patents on this, that, and the other. Just how many gadgets, ideas are there out there?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's of course a good sign. I just hope that they're not just sitting on those patents trying to resell them and actually doing something with them. But
Well,
another story.
Of course they don't know how the companies plan to use those patents. One possible reason to patent things is defensive, so that everybody patents everything, and if you sue them for infringement, they will sue you back because you're leading on their patents. So kind of a mutual assured destruction kind of situation going on, like during the Cold War. You bomb us, we bomb you, everybody dies.
And meanwhile, the lawyers make a lot of money being
the lawyers make a lot of money.
Being the diplomats.
So the idea here is that this is a deterrence. Nobody wants to get into the game. The problem with that strategy is that you have some lawyers firms, all they do is sue people. They don't use any patents, so they can't be sued themselves. All they do is sue everybody else. And those are the kind of the trolls of the patent world. And that's who people are most worried about. So we'll see how that works out. I'm personally very unhappy about software patents in the United States. I don't think we should have software patents at all. We have the copyright laws to protect copyright, sort of the business process. This is patenting ideas. You're not supposed to be able to patent an idea. You're supposed to only be able to patent an expression of an idea. And people are patenting things like the one-click shopping thing. That's an idea, you know. You're not supposed to be able to patent it. And a lot of the stuff being patented in the virtual reality space are actual ideas, not the concrete expression of those ideas. We have the copyright laws for those. So I have a personal beef with this. So I can go on forever. So I will stop. The mobile VR jam is going on. It's ending May 26th. A couple of hundred games and 124 experiences or other apps in there. Some of them are very cool. You could walk into Van Gogh's Night Cafe painting, a whole bunch of simulations and training ones. There's a really creepy surgery one. There's CSI labs, roller coasters, of course. It's really cool. So if you have a virtual reality headset, do check it out. And if you don't, you can just watch their videos just to see the kind of stuff that's being made. It is pretty cool. Um, Other grid news: Virtual Life has connected with Kitely Market and with Podex. Virtual Life is a closed commercial grid, and as I mentioned before, the Kitely Market usually delivers to hypergrid enabled grids, but if a closed grid wants it, they can enable Kitely Market deliveries too. It's a setting that they set in their grid settings to allow incoming deliveries. Kitely doesn't have to do anything. Any grid that wants to do it can just switch it on, and they will start accepting stuff from Kitely. And it means that your residents aren't limited to just getting stuff from Inworld shops. They can get stuff from the entire marketplace, which has been growing. And in fact, Kitely Market's exportable listings grew 50 times faster than non-exportables. So clearly, merchants are figuring out that that's where the money is, and they're really listing a lot of stuff for export to other grids, which is pretty exciting. Other big news from Kitely is that they've given up on their metered billing. They used to have this thing where you pay per use. The more you use a region, the more you pay for it. Then they had all you can eat, like premium memberships. Then they had flat fee regions. This was all super confusing. I never understood it. Even though I've been covering Kitely since the beginning, have had regions on the grid, trying all these different options. Spent a lot of time on the phone with Elon Tochner, the CEO,
I
with
was
him
just
trying to explain it to me. I
I was
still
just
don't understand it.
Well, I'll just interrupt you there actually with some news because I had a quick IM exchange with Inyam Tochner this morning.
Uh-huh.
He couldn't make it today, but I gather they're rolling out a lot of new features and a new system and whatever, and he will be on the show to talk about it in either 2 weeks' time or 3 weeks' time.
Excellent. We can ask him
So
directly.
yeah, exactly. So he's
Yeah.
never been on this show, I realise, so he'll be our guest.
So so basically, if you are a person who wants to have the premium plan, which is you pay $20 a month, and you get like 10 free regions. Or there's another one where you pay a little bit more and you get 30 free on-demand regions. Um, so you can get that through the end of May. So you got to run and do that because that will end. And starting on June 1st, all they will have is standard flat rate regions at $15 a pop, which is the same things you can get at any other grid. The only difference, of course, with the Kitely regions than with other grids regions is that if you're teleporting in and you're the first person teleporting into an empty region, it will take a few seconds for the region to boot up before you can land on it, because they put those regions to sleep when they're empty and there's nobody on it. So minor, small delay. The delay is getting shorter all the time. So that's the main region. I mean, that's the main difference. And I think that's part of the reason they said they've been having a little bit of a rush for on regions this past month, as people have been loading up on these super low cost metered regions, which are really, really hard to explain. So I'm not even going to try explaining them here. All right, we've got.
Can I just interject while I got it open, because I'm going to close it and move on to something else. But I've just been going through my Google Plus points, OpenSim Virtual and the communities, and the name's vaguely familiar, but I don't know if I really know this chap. His name is Alan Johnston, and I've quite literally just joined a community which is called OpenSim Web UI. And it's a Google Plus community, all one word, OpenSim Web UI, and they do seem to be. I noticed Selby Evans, Nicola Melville's in the conversation already about setting up systems and domain comms users. This seems to be geared to getting OpenSim into a web interface, and the first post at the bottom here says the core app engine is generally created, and they just now need to be creating some of the pages and the classes for the database. So that sounds rather interesting. I don't know the full details, but I think anybody interested in the sort of things we talk about might well want to join up with that group.
That is very interesting. Thanks for the heads up. Yeah, I just see it. I'll do an article about it as soon as we're done today. All right, more grid news. Tangle Grid has been offline for 2 weeks. They've been hit by lightning. Literally, their servers have been hit by lightning. They've got the Fashion Expo going on right now. They will be extending it, and they'll let people know about the new dates. They don't know them yet. If you can follow their grid's Facebook page for the updates, or you can see their sister grid, Westworld. Tangle Grid is a commercial grid. Westworld is an open grid that anybody can connect regions to. Okay. Let's see. AltSpace, you mentioned them. They're launching their open beta. AltSpace VR has it's a social platform where you can pull in media on a surface, media on a perm kind of thing. And you can also pull in a little bit of 3D objects. They've got a little weird system for bringing them in. But basically, it's a place to hang out with your friends and watch a movie, or to have business colleagues there to watch a presentation. You can't build Inworld. They have pre-made mesh environments that you just go into. Their big thing, I had a demo with them. Their nice advantage is that you can't walk in this world. You can only teleport from place to place. And that, for me, meant I could spend an hour in there without any motion sickness at all. The first time I had that kind of level of good experience in a virtual reality platform with Oculus Rift. So they really have a nice idea there for minimizing nausea. And they're going to be going into. They went into open beta on May 18th. They announced it at the SVVR conference. And you already mentioned that some of these sessions are online. SL Artist has broken up some of them, and they're posted there. The full unedited ones are up on YouTube. You just Google SVVR to find them, and I have them on my website as well. There's a content creator, Andrew Thompson. He owns the Reef commercial grid, and he's a long-time Second Life merchant. He's been doing a series of columns for me about promoting products in World. So last week there was a little piece about how to spark desire for your products, and today about doing competitive intelligence. What are the things to look for when you look at your competitors' products? When you try to, sell your own. And one of the things that I've been doing is playing around with the mesh, with mesh skirts. I don't know if you remember this, Mel, but a few weeks back, somebody dared me to create my own, and and I did. In fact, the skirt that I'm wearing right now, this thing with the little red flowers on it, I made from scratch today when I was doing my little column about how to do it. I figured I'd do a little texture from scratch. Um, and I did it to illustrate how to use layers in GIMP to color one layer without coloring other layers. So in this case, I can color the background color of my skirt red while the little flowers stay white. If you try to apply a color in World or just colorize the whole texture, it would get washed out. The
Yeah.
flowers would get colored too. So since I had a problem with layers when I first started out, I thought maybe other people would too. So I broke it down into really, move your mouse here, click here, move your mouse here, click here, kind of really tiny steps for people who are just trying to learn how to use it. Okay, so the after that, the other thing is we had some hardware news. There's a lawsuit against Oculus VR from a Hawaiian company. They're saying that Palmer Luckey, the founder, was working for them when he invented his ideas, and so the ideas belong to them, not to him. So a lot of it's going to be a he said, she said kind of situation. It'll go its way through courts.
And patent lawyers, no doubt, as well.
Well, given that Oculus is now owned by Facebook, which has pretty much bottomless pockets, I really doubt that this Hawaiian firm, which I couldn't even find a website for, is going to go far. That pretty much does it for me for non-SVVR news. There's an Oculus Connect conference slated for this September. It's going to be in LA. And everything else is from SVVR. So if you guys want to talk about Ebe's or Rosedale's speech or what I saw there, we can go on to that.
Yeah, well, I think that's great. Let's move straight into that. So I guess the best way to do that is for you to give us a roundup report on everything, and then I know Tara's watched Debbie's thing.
Right.
To interject, and I'll interject if I have any curiosity questions.
Yeah. I'm particularly since you were there up close and personal. There's always a flavor to conferences and what what's really getting a buzz, and what were people excited about and what was a yawn.
Yeah. So I had a table at this conference. Hypergood Business was one of the media sponsors at WIVR. Women in Virtual Reality was a community sponsor, and so was Open Simulator. They're on, the little logos are on the website. It was a hardware-heavy conference. There were a lot of hardware demos. There was Oculus Rift demos. Samsung was the big sponsor of the conference this year. There was at the table next to us was the wearability little headset. Everyone was going around trying out the new headsets. The tech that was being featured was mostly tech related to the use of hardware, new input devices, motion capture devices, facial scanning kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun. It wasn't as much as male dominated as last year's conference. There were several women panelists. Mary Spio from Next Galaxy talked. A couple of our members from Women in Virtual Reality spoke. Jody Medich talked about visualizing data in 3D spaces. There was the conference schedule is up online, and hopefully we'll be seeing all these presentations up. Some of the panels, unfortunately, were all male, and some of the answers to the questions of how do we get more women in there had some embarrassing kind of answers. So so that was sad to hear. I was there with Kathleen Watkins, who's another one of our members from Women in Virtual Reality, and she did a couple of articles for me for Hypergood Business, including the one about Ebbay's talk. And my big takeaway from that was that they're going to go with mesh, and they will be adding in world creation tools, but at launch, Sansar might not have them when the platform first comes out, and that they're concerned about suboptimal, quote, suboptimal user created content. And you mentioned scripts as one of the possibilities. Personally, I'm also worried about the in-world prim creation tools, because that's what I use, because I can't build with Mesh because I'm an idiot. And I think a lot of people are kind of in my situation where they maybe they might texture something or bring something in and play with it, but they're really not up on Blender and Maya and on all those things. And if it's all pro created, then that will kind of change the character of the world in some very major ways, which may make it look prettier, but might not necessarily improve everyone's experience. Because sometimes the stuff that's pretty to one person is the stuff that's boring to others. But we'll see. It's going to go live this summer. I mean, it's going to open for the beta testing or alpha testing this summer. So we'll see how it actually turns out. You mentioned all the hardware devices, the various input mechanisms like walking around and seeing walls. That is so early right now. It is so early. The only ones that are actually in people's hands and being used are the cell phone cases, the ones where you drop in your cell phone, like the Gear VR from Samsung, and all the Google Cardboards, and the Duravis Dive, and similar pre-cardboard things that are basically evolving quickly into Google Cardboard compatible cases. Um, and these have the advantage that the cell phones innovate quickly, and people replace their cell phones every year or so, but they replace their consoles and desktops on a 3 year or 5 year schedule or longer, so that if we're in a fast evolving space, then being based on a cell phone is I think a better bet. And it's also cheaper. You can get a headset for between the case for the headset for under $100. My Google Cardboard cost like $10. Kathleen had like a $30 little plastic set for her iPhone. That was very nice and had you can adjust the lenses and stuff. So it's much more accessible to everybody, and you can trade up really easily, and people can play around with them and release different headsets very quickly. So the field will grow very fast, and I think that right now is what looks like the best bet. As far as moving around, it's going to be really hard, I think, to get your actual physical motion to correspond to the in-world motion in a way that doesn't trip you up or make you fall over. And so I don't know. I have my doubts about any of those kinds of things. I think they're going to look cool on paper, but I'm not sure in practice how many people are going to be using them. But we'll see. Like I said, it's really, really early to tell. I think a lot of it's going
I interrupt
to
a second.
the porn industry goes.
I'm
Personally,
just
stuff, because that's people.
I'm just interrupting. I had a breakup on
Yes.
Skype from you. Is
Did we
somebody
get
else?
disconnected again?
No, you are connected, but I was getting a bit of break.
Okay.
Are we getting it? Anybody else getting it? Oh, I'm
Okay.
getting a Skype problem with call error here. It
Oh
shows that.
no.
Yeah, we're back.
Yeah, I think
You're
we're
right.
back. I think we're back, but you were breaking up a bit. So, but carry on. I think we're good.
Yeah, basically to summarize, I think it's too early to tell what's going to happen with the hardware. There are so many options right now. The cell phone headsets are currently in the lead. We're not even going to get the Oculus until early next year, and it's going to require a heavy-duty computer, whereas the cell phone headsets just require the cell phone you already have. And you can watch movies in 3D and play with these little apps. So,
The reason,
Mhm.
Maria, I'm guessing from your comments that the HTC Valve coalition and their headset and what they're doing was not at the conference. And the only reason I bring it up is there's a major article in CNET that ran 2 days ago, focusing particularly on the HTC solution, and they are expecting to start shipping by Christmas. They're expecting to start shipping late this year. So it's not vaporware. They've had headsets at some shows in this spring. And it really caught my attention because CNET is pretty good about tracking this kind of stuff, and the degree to which they are claiming it is a serious competitor to Oculus really caught my attention.
Right.
So
So to the extent that they're going after the headset mount, yes, I do think that that's a great idea, and I think I saw them last week. This week, at a booth like diagonally across from ours. I didn't personally try it out. I think I like the headset approach. The thing that I'm worried about is the movement inputs. I think it's really early to tell what the input devices are going to be. So I like their approach with the cell phone case. It's I think in there it's roughly their version of the Gear VR or their version of the Google Cardboard. So that looks good. But as far as the input devices go and the motion devices, those are very early on, and something that uh, uh, it will take, I think, quite a bit of interaction with actual consumers to see what catches on and doesn't.
Out of curiosity, Marie, I mean, you said it was, and I'm no surprise to me, of course, any of us, I suppose, it was a hardware-heavy conference. But what did you just? Was there any sort of apparent talk, even if it was all male, about how should we say total solutions of things? In other words, I'm sure there are lots of hardware vendors and different systems ranging from Oculus to Leap Motions to all sorts of things exhibiting there and delivering their keynotes. But were there any discussions where people were kind of, let's say, in a more abstract sense, not promoting an individual product, but talking about the future devices where the different components might come together? And indeed, was there any real focus on content, as in the metaverse, rather than all the fancy games and things that they show off with?
Yeah. So Rosedale talked a little bit about the metaverse with his high fidelity platform. There was a panel about input devices that's online. I think you can watch that now. I'm going to be sitting down watching that and doing a recap of it later on. There was discussion about currency. Chris Colosi, who formerly ran the Linden Marketplace, gave a really nice talk, and I was there for his talk about setting up a new currency for the metaverse, and he had some interesting thoughts about how they'll benefit monetization of virtual reality platforms, which a lot of people have not been talking about yet. Let's see, what else? I mentioned Ebbe talked about the content, and there was quite a bit of a developer and hardware builder focus to the conference as well. What was the question? I got distracted.
Well, I was over and beyond the hardware. Well, no, well, actually including the hardware. I was so keen, I can imagine being at a conference like that and seeing some different Oculus and Leap Motion and this, that, and all the other pieces of hardware, all of which I consider to be interesting in themselves, but there is no complete solution out there as yet.
No.
What I was wondering is, did any of the discussions at the conference actually touch on that as an issue, or was it very pitched towards individual hardware items that are very specific and not the whole cake, as it were?
There were several talks about standards and open source issues, which I personally was very much interested in, because there's a lot of point solutions. Then there's like group solutions, like the Oculus Samsung Alliance, or all the Google Cardboard ecosystem. And then there's the open source one, the open source VR. And they've got a lineup of vendors and providers behind that. So that for me was interesting, the development of multiple ecosystems that are going to be competing with one another. Personally, as an open source proponent, I'm interested in either the open source alliance or in the Google Cardboard backed platform, which is also open source, but in a different direction. So I think that's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be very interesting what happens with that.
What about on the content side? I mean, obviously Philip was there with High Fidelity. Evie was talking about the new Linden Lab product, all of which are quite naturally focused on being able to take advantage of the new hardware. And both of which, incidentally, are focused on making themselves available for existing things like iPads and Android. Were there any other platforms there that you would see we might be for the metaverse?
Well, there were several people talking about storytelling and filmmaking, including Nanya de la Pena. So there were discussions about post-productions and distribution. And there were the mechanics of storytelling, and the narrative creation on that side of it, which I thought was very interesting, because it's very different from the hardware aspects of virtual reality. And storytelling and narrative and 3D movies are where people are probably going to have their first experience with virtual reality, because it's the thing that's easier to absorb through a headset case. You don't need to wait till next year for the Oculus Rift. You can put on any of the other devices out there, and you can be inside a concert or a marketing experience or a 3D movie or a 3D journalism or news program, and that's already accessible today. So I think that's going to be the first interaction many people have with virtual reality, is these taped, canned virtual experiences. So even the roller coaster.
I've just remembered something that has just come to mind based on what you were saying. This was an item that I heard maybe 2 or 3 hours ago on the UK radio news, mainstream radio, the radio station in the background, nothing on the web, nothing, mainstream news. And it was a report, I think it was something to do with the British Aviation Authority. sort of working on bringing the combating air sickness and stuff like that by putting virtual reality equipment into aeroplanes, and so people could actually go into these sets and overcome their flying sickness or motion sickness or whatever. Which actually I think is really quite interesting, because we're talking about all this, but there was actually an example of I don't know what the software will be, but the idea of just taking the environment to virtual reality to overcome physical problems.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, good news. Good news. It was on the news. So, yeah.
Well, that's also curious, because obviously motion sickness has been one of the big issues with VR headsets, and the degree to which, how long can people stand it before they have to take the damn things off or want to go off in a corner,
maybe
toss their cookies.
I know. I wondered about that. I've got to admit, maybe they just figured the lesser of two evils, the VR motion sickness, is better than the flying one. I might even agree on that point, but never mind. Back to the general gist of this.
Right. So if you were to go online and check out the sessions, the things that I would look out for would be the storytelling ones, the narrative. I think that's going to be the early hit of virtual reality, and there's some really brand name people talking about this there. And check out the open source panels. I think that this is going to be a very significant direction for virtual reality, open source, both on the hardware and the software side, the platform side, and the development side. So I'm personally going to be keeping an eye out for that as well.
Woo.
Yep.
Hello. Great.
Yeah. So, and it was a lot of fun too. It was a lot of fun. Palmer Luckey was there, wandering around the expo floor talking to people. He says he hasn't really been, he's not recognized on the streets yet, so he has the good benefits of being a billionaire celebrity without any of the bad ones. He still looks a little shell shocked, like, oh my God, what's happening to me? So that was fun. People were trying out hardware all over the place, and having these devices and everything. So that was really fun. If you can get a chance to go to next year's, this year's was triple the size of last year's, and next year's probably going to be even huger still. So if you get a chance to go out there, it was a nice venue. It was in the middle of San Jose. Very easy to get to, surrounded by hotels, very pleasant weather. It was just a perfect atmosphere for this. Yeah.
How wonderful! It certainly looks like it's taken off. I have another little anecdote to tell. Nothing sinister to this, by the way. But during the week, I had cause to be visited by a couple of local policemen. And I invited them in to just have a conversation about something. And one of them sort of said, well, what exactly is it you do over there, looking at all my screens and computers? And I thought, how do I explain to somebody, the local body, a couple of quick words, I said, it's sort of developing things for virtuality, not games, but whatever. And this local policeman just out of the blue said, oh, you mean like this Oculus Rift thing? And I was taken aback, because this was no techie. The only other interesting thing we had in common was Eric Clapton, I gather. But I mean, it was just so odd, because I didn't expect the generic name Oculus Rift to roll off the tongue of somebody like that, who had no real interest in what they're doing. So, I mean, clearly, this, hardware revitalization, resurgence, as it were, is seeping into people's consciousness.
The awareness of VR is growing substantially over this past year. I think we've got like 50% recognition right now with the general population. So it's been expanding dramatically. It's
Well,
really cool.
when you have the likes of Facebook, who's in what 80% of households, or I forget what the uptake is that I've seen currently. You know, the word is something that Facebook buys into is going to get attention. It's going to get kind of mainstream media attention, and even if it's, you know, inaccurately portrayed or overhyped, and you know, although I think all of us are sitting here, you know, flinching at the you know, at the bombast and hype that's going on.
Oh, not me. I'm all for the hype. Hype away.
Oh well, no, but I mean from the perspective of you know, versus what's the, you know, the hype in the sense of over promising something that is going to vastly under deliver when it launches.
Right.
You know, the expectations that are building up in people's heads from the hype is way beyond what's possible to deliver. You know, when the first headsets roll out to the commercial market. I mean, it's just, it ain't, you know, it's not going to be there. And I think we certainly all appreciate the gaps that you know, the casual news person has no concept of, but it's still the 30-second soundbite version is getting into the collective consciousness.
Oh yeah, with Jimmy Fallon trying it on his show, and yeah, it's definitely making its way out there. One last thing I wanted to bring up that's OpenSim related is that there was a discussion on OpenSim Virtual that I started about a new freebie site to replace OpenSim Creations. And there's a huge discussion about this, and several people have said that they're might be working on it. ZetaMex might be working on something. A couple of other people said they were working on it, including Adam Adam one time, that guy.
Yeah.
He's working on something. So none of it seems to be coalescing into a usable platform yet. But I have high hopes because I really, really miss OpenSim Creations. And of course, the Google Kitely Market doesn't allow freebies because they want to have a minimum kind of price point for sales. So right now I don't have any place to post content that I want to share with everybody except on my own website, and it's kind of hard to search on a million different websites looking for content.
I must say, well, I've been putzing around building here, and well, mostly in the adjacent regions, which might be in my bonnet at the moment. I mean, you know, I've been wandering around the hypergrid as best I can, hoping that there's suitcase activated grids and I can pick up freebies that actually arrive back with me, short of actually teleporting back wearing a house. But I have actually, I do actually have an offline copies of an awful lot of stuff that came from OpenSim Creations, and there's been things I've been uploading from my, you know, local discs that I got from OpenSim Creations that have really sort of come in useful, you know, for things I haven't been able to find anywhere else, basically. So, I mean, it was an invaluable service, and, you know, great to have people, you know, just putting stuff up there that, you know, you take one look at it, you know, it takes your fancy, you download it, and, you know, you can possibly upload it to where you want it.
Yeah, so a lot of people have various parts of OpenSim Creation saved. So once a website goes up, we can start collecting that stuff again.
Yeah.
And that'd be really cool. And I'm looking forward to that. But right now, still nothing out there as of yet. So come on, folks, get developing.
Yep. All it takes is a website. All it needs is a website, FTP server, and somebody to upload all the archives and index them. Yes.
Well, yes, the
Simple.
uploading and indexing is huge, and then of course you want to have a design that works, and that's also, you know, a tricky thing to do.
And you have to scan all that stuff so you're not inadvertently sending people viruses.
Oh, right. Yeah. You want to scan.
There's all kinds of security stuff that has got to be considered
Right.
and
You want to,
addressed.
and if you're hosting or if you're hosting anywhere, you want to have DMCA policy up, and if you have user uploaded content, you want to register that you're a safe harbor for content, and all sorts of stuff you have to go through. Yeah. Plus, if you're hosting OR files, that's quite a bit of bandwidth you're going to need if people are going to be downloading them, especially if you allow hot linking to it. Because this is one of the nice things about OR files is if it's on a website and you have its direct URL of the OR file, you can just type it into the OpenSim console and have it immediately go into the OpenSim world directly without having to download it and re-upload it. If you have that as an option for your file hosting site, that's a really great, useful thing, but it would also eat up a lot of bandwidth.
Good point.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you could do that, so you don't have to share that. You can literally download the AR files through the OpenSim console.
So there's instructions on the Linda Kelly's Zadaroo site for how to do that. This is particularly useful if you're running OpenSim on some server somewhere where you don't know how to upload files to it.
Yeah.
And then how to access them on the server. You would just type them into the console right there, and they would just go in.
Great. We live and learn every day. Not that I have access to a console anywhere, but I mean, if I did, that's so useful to know. Certainly gets rid of the hassle of downloading onto a computer, then trying to find a way of looking at it offline and deciding whether it's really the right thing you want to upload.
Yeah. And it also means that any hosting company can just say, post your URL and we'll install the OR file. It makes it, easier for them because then they can just grab it off that site instead of having you download it and upload it.
Yeah. Good point. Okay. Well, believe it or not, we're 10 minutes short of our 90 minutes.
That never happens.
So I actually think we might actually get this show done in a reasonable time this week, especially as I've been looking at OpenSim Virtual here on the iPad and stuff, and lots of interesting conversation. For those of you who don't use Google Plus, you really should do, I think. I tend to post hypergrid related, OpenSim related stuff up there now as a preferred route to stuff that doesn't actually get to my Twitter feeds in normal course of things. But one of the great things there is the communities. I mentioned the one that I actually pressed on join while we were talking, the Web UI thing. But OpenSim Virtual, which is the one I got open at the moment, is equally great for discussion. You find the creators there. You also find the owners of different grids there, and everybody sort of putting in a lot of PR for people's own grids and things, which you might expect. But generally some very good discussion too. And there are plenty of other communities there I might hasten to add too. In fact, I'm just going to press the back button while we're doing it. Almost every grid from AviWorld, unbelievably, I've been invited by Alex Ferraris to 2 communities. One's called AviWorld's Virtual World, and the other one's called AviWorld's Grid. And I'm long since a member of some other AviWorlds already. So there is a certain amount of overkill. But OpenSim Virtual is a very good one. There's a Great Canadian Grid as a one, which is Nifty, of course. And I wanted to mention this. I'm just going to click on it. Something called the Hypergrid WIP show, which now has 94 members. I haven't been to one of these. I'm not. The next one will be on May 15th. That wasn't right. They've got their dates mixed up, haven't they? Oh, no, there's an old one day ago. But apparently this has been getting quite a little bit of traction. Is this something you know, Maria? Have you kind of stumbled across this or been to one?
No, this is first time hearing of it. Can you send me a link?
Sure. Well, yes. Well, try later. It's actually a Google Plus community called the Hypergrid WIP Show. I think it is a kind of show and tell meetup. For people creating stuff on the hypergrid. And I think that that is the impression I sort of get. So when I saw it, I thought, oh, is this a show? As in TV or something. But I think it's actually just a regular sort of show and tell kind of meetup. I know Sylvia Evans is involved by the look of this.
Oh, WIP, works in progress.
Yes. Yeah, I was just going to say WIP as in works in progress.
Yeah. Yes, I've been following it for a while. I'm going to be doing a new communities report at the end of this month, and it will be on the list. Yes.
Right.
It's people showing off stuff that they're building.
Yeah. Which is good for inspiration and
yep.
stuff like that. Yeah. There's another community for hypergrid events.
Yep.
I'd add. There's one called Metaverse Tours, but it's not the Metaverse, the Hypergrid Safari, and it generally seems to be tours within Kitely, which is not really what I call a Metaverse tour, but not totally.
They start in Kitely, but they go other places too. So, for example, I think Virtual Christine is leading a tour to Craft this week. Right. Well, actually, earlier today. Yeah, she went. Okay. They went to Craft Grid. Yeah. So.
Also, we have had for a long time on Google Plus a group called a community called Metaverse Week in Review, which of course is the original name of this show when it was more than just the Inworld Review on the channel. Mm-hmm. And we got 370 members of that, and quite a lot of people actually post there. They've obviously joined up, and people I haven't even heard of are actually posting there too. Not as frequently as some of the other groups, of course, but it's quite interesting. I think some people obviously have a method by which they can post to all their communities at once or something. But we are there too, and I have been looking recently as far as comments. When I contacted Ilian from Kitely earlier today, I sort of thanked him for some comments he'd made on the show a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, basically clearing up the fact that I as I gather, Kitely, he says you can have bullet physics or other physics on the same grid. It's just a matter of an option you have to choose when you take a region or something. But interesting anecdote that we wouldn't have got anywhere else. So I've been looking. It seems the majority of people start actually put their comments on this show into the posting on YouTube. Whereas they're in the YouTube comments, but some of them do end up on Google Plus in the sense that people find it on Google Plus and put the comments in there. So it's a bit difficult. I've got to search all over the place for comments. Some are on live stream, some are on Google Plus, some are on YouTube. But we certainly do seem to get more comments during the course of the week and here, there, and everywhere than we ever used to, which is great. And I'd like to welcome any kind of feedback on that from anybody watching. Do feel free to get in touch. Also, something I'm probably going to write a post at Google Plus shortly, but also a kind of open invitation to appear on this show, really. I mean, we are interested in covering the hypergrid, the metaverse, and the usual stuff, and sort of best practices and things like that in the OpenSim hypergrid space. And if you have something, you're launching a grid, or you have a project you're building that you consider to be of a great interest, I'm sure it is to you personally, but you know what I mean, a greater public interest, do feel free to get hold of me and sort of ask if we'd like to have you on the show, because I personally would like to see a few more creators get the odd slot in this show, for example, just to look at best practices of builds and stuff like that are going on. So if you fancy coming on the show to talk about something you're doing and you think it'd be of interest to our listeners, you know the format, then get in touch. I'm also looking at my camera miser here. I was told earlier, am I happy with my sitting position? And I had one look and I said, oh, no, I'm definitely not. But unfortunately, I haven't got my interface up. The show's underway. There's nothing I can do about it. It's like glitches on Skype calls. So I do apologize both for my animation and behavior, and also some of the faults we had on Skype earlier. But we have delivered that kind of stuff. So to wrap up as normal, I'm just going to go to Maria then Tara again and ask them if anything else. Well, we all know what Maria was doing during the week, but if anything else on the horizon that haven't been already mentioned that's happened recently or coming up in their lives shortly that they want to get off their chest or give some PR to. So I'll start with you, Maria. Oh dear, I lost Maria.
And Maria has muted herself.
I did mute myself. Yes.
Fair
I
enough.
was talking too. I said some really smart things and I forgot what they were.
Brilliant.
Yes. Okay. So let's see what's happening. I am continuing to play around with mesh clothing, learning how to do it and create it and stuff like that. Adding more stuff to the Hyperica directory. That's been growing like a storm. We've been adding so many new destinations. And
while I remember, would you like to bring your assistant Tyler on to other shows, maybe next week or something?
Sure, I'll ask him.
If he does voice, he's getting to an awful lot of places, so it'd be great to say hear from him and get a feel for.
He's working on a couple of stories for me about some nice destinations. So that'll be fun. Oh, speaking of destinations, the scripting showcase trail is on.
Oh yes.
It's a hypergrid tour that's self-guided. And he's doing a little write-up for me about that, so keep an eye out for it. And what it is you go from place to place, and there's scripters showing off their work in various locations. So that looks like a fun thing to go to.
We had a preview 2 weeks ago on Safari. Oh, and in fact, Thursday was on the show, wasn't she, 2 weeks ago?
Oh, yeah, she was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
great thing.
Yeah, I promised her I would post an article about it.
Yeah, no, the list of scriptures that the 8 or a dozen sort of that you go to the Safari base, just follow the links basically. But great stuff for the people on the phone.
Yep. So that should be fun for people to do, a fun exercise. I mentioned that I'll be doing a wrap up of the Google communities and how things are growing. If you have a community that I'm not following, send it to me. Ditto, if there's a grid or a destination you want me to visit and add to the directory, send that to me too. We have enough categories in the adult, in the education, in other areas that we'll be able to like fill out all the places in the Hyperica Hyperport. And then the next thing after that is we'll be adding a live calendar and Inworld calendar as well for ongoing events that are happening like soon. So that's what I'm going to be working on this week. It's going to be a busy week. If anyone wants to help out, just email me, maria@hypergridbusiness.com.
Wonderful. Let's volunteer, everybody. Same here. we all need assistance, especially free. Just as long as it's free. Come and help us out. I'll extend that. If you've got any ideas for building sets, SETS, for television or outside broadcasting sort of things, get in touch with me too, because there's plenty of, I won't say there isn't much left, but I mean, there is space here where we're building backlogs and things like that. So a lot of them need decorating. They've been planned out, but they need somebody to come in and sort of dump stuff down and make it look right. So any ideas you have, let us know.
Well, Mal, I actually do have a small budget for assistance because I'm so proud of our supporters. we have advertisers who are advertising a Hyperca business. The ad space is sold out. And the money that they're putting in is going directly towards updating the directory, listings, content, all that stuff. So I didn't use any of their money for the trip to California. That was out of my pocket. The advertisers' money goes directly towards adding new listings for Hyperica, and keeping that up to date. So
I think I was just talking about me when I said free. I'm cheesecake. I can't afford to pay for that sort of stuff. It's great fun. Yeah.
So we have a small budget for content and for development work. Yeah.
Okay, even better.
So thank you, advertisers. You guys know who you are. Specifically, Kitely Market and Logicamp, and ZanGrid, and DigiWorld. Thank you for your support. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely great. And I've just realised both of you were away last week, of course, when we had DigiWorlds on. We have Mark Wiseman and the girl from Pillars of Mist.
Pillars of Mist, Mary Schoenbach.
Who obviously has moved to what was on her grid within reason into digital.
Yeah, that was one of the 2 grids that closed over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
The other one being the Next Reality grid.
Yeah. But she has actually taken all the best of Pillars of Mist and put it in DigiWorld. So that was very nice. So they were talking about that. So yes. Great honor. Great honor. Thank you to all Maria's sponsors. Now you can sponsor me.
Okay. Also, thank you to GS40, their hosting company, to Third Rock Grid, and Cudworth Designs, and to Dreamland Metaverse.
Very good. Well,
make sure I get them all covered.
Yeah, I think that's fair. You know, we don't do this every week, but we got a few extra minutes, so why not?
Yes.
Just a bit of PR to the people who sponsor us all.
We love you guys, and if you're a happy user of the Hyperica directory, that's what's paying for it.
Can I ask you a quick question? I had meant to ask you earlier, and it just escaped my mind when we were concluding on the Silicon Valley thing. You said, I didn't realise this. I knew you were going out there and everything. I didn't realise you actually had a booth there. Did you get a lot of traction on your own booth?
Well, the booth was for the benefit of women in virtual reality.
Right.
And we had about a dozen people signing up for a membership list. We were handing out copies of our expert directory. This is for everybody who ever said, well, I'd love to have women on our panel or on our board of directors, or I'd love to hire women, but I just can't find any. There are so many women in virtual reality doing so many fantastic things. And we had this whole thick listing of our expert directory that we were handing out to people. It was really great. We met venture capitalists who fund women startups. We met large corporations that were running departments that included a lot of women. It was really great. We met some pioneers. We met a woman who had been working on Sun in virtual reality, and she said the headsets they had 20 years ago were better than what we have now, but Sun canned the project. So she was kind of annoyed about that. And she said it would have been successful if it had more women in it, because women have a stronger idea of the end benefits of the technology, how people will gain from it, as opposed to just, oh, this is cool tech.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of a broader focus, a little bit of a reverse sexism there, but hey, we could.
If it's the truth, it's the truth.
Yeah. But in a place that's so heavily skewed towards a particular male demographic, a little bit of reverse sexism isn't going to hurt anybody. I also heard that if the conference had been held in LA, that it was much better gender parity there because of all the content creation firms and the media firms and the design firms that have a much stronger representation of women in VR as opposed to the San Francisco area, which was very heavy on the hardware side.
Interesting.
Huh?
Yeah.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me
Mm-hmm.
from a where women are most well represented.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now there are a few women working on the hardware side as well, of course. And there's a hardware company out of China that's headed up by a woman that has a cool headset. But for the most part, so there's women are running platforms like Next Galaxy is run by a woman, and 3DICC's Turf platform is run by a woman. And then there's obviously Worlds and Grids run by women. Inworlds with Beth Reichel, and Avanation with Melanie, and Tangle Grid with Leslie Kling, and so there's a lot of that happening. And on the research, on the training, on education, on content, of course, all that is a lot of women working there. Manufacturing labs, GM and Ford both have women running their virtual reality laboratories. I spoke to the woman running the Ford lab. They're doing really interesting things with virtual reality simulations. So there's a lot happening in many areas of VR where women are doing very interesting things, and a lot of women are doing a lot of interesting things.
Great. Well, let's hope all those handouts and everything else pay off, and people jump to action.
Yes.
Okay, Tara, closing thoughts.
Well, just a quick mention that now that I've lost my bookmark. Where was I? I was somewhere here. There it is. Yes. This is a wrap-up week for a number of LEA, Linden Endowment of the Arts sim builds. And one that I don't think has been mentioned before. If it has, it was quite some time ago, is the history of the vehicle in Second Life, which features over 130 vehicles from 50 creators. A showcase that has everything from cars, bikes, trucks, and more, including the whimsical side of vehicle building. Runs through the end of May, which is the end of this week. So if you have any interest at all in vehicles and virtual worlds, that's probably a good place to visit this week. And that's my closing comment.
That's your final take. Okay, well, thank you for that. Well, talking at the end of May, while we've been on air, I have been checking my dates. Next Saturday we are actually still in May. It's May 30th, Sunday's 31st. So June is not until Monday. So we will be back here on the Hypergrid next week. And the week after that will be the first Saturday of June, where we'll be recording in Second Life, and that means I think that it'll be the week after that we're joined by Ilian from Knightley. So who knows what we have in store for you here this time next week? But you can be sure that we will be here, same time, same place next week. So, as ever, I'd like to thank everybody for being here in the form of Maria and Tara. Thank you both.
Thank you for having us, Mel.
Anytime.
And it's almost like having guests because you weren't here last week, you see. So you were
right.
You were the guest this week, and we're back to normal next week, hopefully. And I'll just leave it at that. You can find the show replayed on YouTube, posted by Google Plus, Twitter, all over the place. You should have no problem finding it if you want to replay this episode or previous ones. And for now, I'm just going to wish you a very good morning, or a very good afternoon, or a very good evening, or indeed a good tomorrow, because tomorrow arrived here an hour ago. We'll see you later.